Hey, vinyl community and other friends. It's Mazzy here with The Archivist.
Hello.
And we're going to do a video of, we're each going to showcase 10 women artists for International Women's Day, International Women's Month. We're taping this on the 8th of March, which is the actual date of International Women's Day. And we're going to just showcase some of our favorites. And again, it's not a top 10 list, it's just 10 we pulled today. Tomorrow, next time, we might pull some other records and compact discs, and we each chose 10 and we'll alternate. In the background is, and this is not one of the 10 that either of us picked, but of course, I mean, you can't really do it without talking about the great Billie Holiday. This is a complete Verve collection, 10 CDs, the complete Billie Holiday on Verve, 1945 to 1959. It has live cuts, studio cuts, both in New York and Hollywood, and just, you know, Lady Sings Blues.
She's the best.
Okay. So without further ado, again, somewhat random order. We'll start with The Archivist.
All right. We'll start with, by no means, these are not really in any order, and I made a point to try and pick things that maybe people don't talk about as much. Not necessarily that these are my favorites or whatever. I just wanted to showcase maybe things that people don't think about as much. So I'm going to start with one of my favorites, Elizabeth Cotten. This is a absolutely beautiful Smithsonian Folkways collection, reissued in 2018, but it came out originally in 1958. It's beautiful, like all Folkways albums are. Really well done, really beautiful. See a beautiful blue label there. Can't see. There we are. Managed to get that up there.
Circular.
Yeah. And if you don't know her guitar playing and singing, get out there right away and check her out. She's got an amazing voice, a beautiful style. She was self-taught, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly. And she has some really great interviews on YouTube that you can find as well in her older years that are really adorably funny. Check her out.
All right. I put mine in alpha order just for the sake of it. I didn't want to put them in any other order. But I'm going to start with the fabulous, one of my favorite vocalists. Again, these aren't, you know, the essential necessarily women that, I mean, there's a lot of left up, like I left out Joni Mitchell because I did a big feature on Joni Mitchell and the like. But I'm a big fan of Sandy Denny. What a golden voice. What a great British artist. And this is the album, I think, that I got introduced to her with Fairport Convention, Leave and Lage. Love this record. Sandy Denny, I mean, I could have put in Maggie Pryor also in that kind of realm, but I'm picking her. Unfortunately, she tragically died at a fairly young age. But this is a box set that was on Hannibal Records. Joe Boyd worked with her quite a bit and produced a lot of the music and compiled this set in the, I guess in the 80s, I believe. I originally had it on 1985 on Hannibal Records. That was Joe Boyd's label, a lot of great, great stuff on Hannibal. So Sandy Denny. This covers stuff with Fairport as well as solo stuff, some rare alternates, but one of my faves.
Now, this is an amazing female vocalist. This is actually a duo, and the other person in the band is a fella, but
A fella?
the singer, the female singer vocalist in this group is amazing. Her name is immediately going to escape.
Eleanor Friedberger.
Thank you.
Fiery Furnaces.
Fiery Furnaces.
Werner Brother.
This record came out in 2003, I believe, and I had never seen it on vinyl until we happened to find it 2 days ago or something. We were doing some discogsing. Hey, look at that! What happens when you discogs your collection?
I knew it was in my collection. I just never told her. Amanda is the one who turned me originally on, about 14 years ago to the Fiery Furnaces. And it was on a mixed CD she gave me. Then I went to see them. I started buying all their compact discs. I'd never seen an album of theirs, and I found that one in Vancouver, British Columbia when I was there last July, just on the wall. I'd never seen one. First track's a little crunchy, but it's a great album. That's their best album, and it's really an unusual.
It's really, really unusual, and you'll either love the way that it goes or you'll really hate it. If you hate it, I'm sorry, but it is really great. She's got a really unusual kind of way of singing that's really upbeat, but what did you say the other night? You love what you're hearing, but you have no idea what she's saying.
Lyrically, I have no idea. It's kind of like early REM, but not like, no, you hear her words, but you have no idea what those words are. At least when Michael Stipe used to sing, you didn't understand. He goes, I'm this man, Rockville, you know. But Eleanor Friederberger, she actually is an solo artist now. She's had about 3 or 4 solo albums too. But what's interesting is you have a basic song structure. And the two of them, I think her brother writes a lot more of the music and she works with the vocalizing, and I'm not sure if they share lyrics. Someone else who might know, please inform us. But they go in these weird directions, and they all of a sudden add some weird instrumentation. It almost sounds like off in different tempos and different melodies, but it's bizarre. And there's a great comp, and we didn't pull it here. It's a Dylan comp. It might be one of those Mojo freebie collections way back, and they do a version of I once had a girl, a Beatles connection. That's what it was, a Beatles song, or what she said she had me, Norwegian Wood. But then they go into this weird Dylan, the way the organ builds up, it's like, how do you feel? How do you feel? And it's sort of a mashup, but it's not it's bizarre. I can't describe it, but search online for the Firing Furnaces Norwegian Wood cover and listen to that and then see it. Then come back and let us know if you like it.
Yeah, it's great. Check it out. They're really cool and highly recommended.
Now, when I was pulling my 10 artists, I ended up pulling a lot of sort of the big name people in most cases. The archivist here tried to get deep down and get to be cooler and hipper and, you know.
I just wanted to share people that you might not know.
Yeah, you might not know.
I'm
I
not
know
trying to be intentionally obtuse.
She's obtuse, so we like to use obtuse for the rest of this video. In fact, we should try to fit obtuse into everything. Okay, my next pick is the great late obtuse lady of soul from the 60s and the 70s, and that's Aretha Franklin. Y'all know her, I don't have to tell a lot about her. Lady Soul on Atlantic Records. She came from the gospel community, sang sort of gospel and spiritual stuff for the most part, and pop hits on Columbia Records, and didn't really catch on. I mean, some people now have revisited that work, but until she hooked up with Atlantic Records and the whole sound, Tom Dowd engineered these and produced by Jerry Wexler, things broke. I mean, this album alone, Chain of Fools, Money Won't Change You, You Make Me Feel Like a Natural Woman. Oh my God. Oh my friggin' God. A great cover of Groovin', the Felix Cavallari song that the Young Rascals did. But I'm just showing 2 albums because we are allowed to show several of one artist. And live at the Fillmore, you can't get much better than this. One thing, I looked at my collection, I can't friggin' find it, I guess it's gone or somebody stole it, is my original 70s copy of Amazing Grace.
Oh, wow.
I can't find that record, and I know I didn't trade it in, so.
Maybe we'll find it while we're discarding.
You know, maybe it's shuffled, but great thing. I think this is the show where Ray Charles showed up. Yeah, Ray Charles plays on this live album, but this is an amazing, amazing record. So Aretha Franklin is my next choice. The obtuse, Aretha Franklin.
Obtuse.
We should take it out.
Yeah, I will. So, my next one is a little obscure, but Solex, which is Elizabeth S. Link. She owns, or used to own, a record store, and I believe it went out of business, if I am correct. Let me know if I'm not. And she made all this music with a few guest stars by sampling records in a record store. Really cool DJ. She sings over the top of it, and it sounds unlike anything else I've ever heard in the best way possible. It's very uniquely feminine in kind of a very masculine genre, I think. It came out in 1999 on Matador. I obviously put this on account for Maslov at some point, and he managed to pick this up, and she has a few out, a couple singles, and 2 or 3 full lengths. I can't remember exactly, but this is by far the best one. Pick up.
This was hard to get. I can't remember. It took me a long time to find it. In fact, the first one I ordered, it showed up, and it turned out to be, I had to pay something like $3,000 for one of those workout machines that they billed me monthly for. And I thought that was what Solex wasn't. Solex like a workout machine? Was it called Solex or something like that?
Soloflex.
Oh, no, I ordered the wrong friggin' thing.
So this did not come out on vinyl, interestingly, even though she was a record store owner, and a lot of this music is made from sampling records in her store. But
so she violated the copyright of these artists, or
only in the way that all sampling is done, not unlike all other people who sample.
And sometimes they get busted for it.
Yeah, but I think it's the way that she does it. She's paying the copyrights, obviously.
Okay.
It's on Matador. It's not like they're able to rip shit off.
Like a Paul's Boutique. I made it in Paul's Boutique. I know we're kind of veering, but they were able to sample some Beatles stuff. I think from the White Album on Paul's Boutique, and that's a major release. The Beatles never allowed that. So I've always wondered how that got through.
Yeah.
And then Suzanne Vega got sampled from Tom's Diner, and then she ended up getting the rights back. So another whole video story someday.
Anyway, Solex.
Really cool.
If you ever see this, I would love to play it for you. I don't know if we'll be doing any musical interludes, but
you know what we'll try to do? We won't do a bunch of them. At the very end, we'll put some Solex on and we'll tail out with that. You know, that'll be our run out groove in a way. Okay?
Cool.
Another obvious choice. I'm picking the obvious choices. She's picking the obtuse choices, but I'm picking one of the great obtuse jazz singers of all time, pop jazz singers.
That doesn't even work.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. Ella Fitzgerald.
Beautiful record.
This album in particular, this is the album that I got turned on in the 70s. That's when I got turned on to Ella Fitzgerald. I knew her. I remember seeing some old movies from the 40s with her singing a Tisket, a Tasket. I forgot what musical that was. She's in the back of the bus with all these singers, and they're all singing the Tisket when she does that jazzy version of that. Amazing stuff. She had a way of interpreting pop songs just wonderfully. But I remember one night I was driving home around midnight, 1 in the morning, the radio was on, and How High, Mac the Knife and How High the Moon came on. This is live in Berlin, obviously, because it says it right here. Mm-hmm. And the scatting she does on that is wonderful, is amazing. And I work in record stores there, and we had it in stock. The next day I grabbed it. I hadn't heard it before. And so I love this record. A lot of her best stuff is on Verve. And then just because I'm going to show 2 things, the thing that's really important to me in my collection of Ella Fitzgerald is her songbooks. And I have the box sets of all the songbooks, Rodgers and Hammerstein, Cole Porter. This is a reissue, wonderful analog reissue of her doing the songbook of Cole Porter. She's done them with Louis Armstrong, but these are very well worth getting. A lot of great 70s comps that have these that are analog, and you can check those out if you can't find the originals. Originals tend to be beat up, but of course, a lot of people like to find originals. But Ella Fitzgerald, very, very important to me. I did see her once at the Fairmont Hotel in the Venetian Room in the 70s, and that was it. And I was gobsmacked.
Right on.
Ella Fitzgerald.
Can't go wrong. The Slits. No collection is totally complete without the Slits. This album was really pretty important when it came out. Did you ever get to see the Slits?
Nope.
No? Me either. I'm assuming most people have heard of this record, whether or not you've actually heard it.
This is a reissue.
This is a reissue. I think probably Typical Girls is the main hit on this album, I would guess, which is such a great song. Really wonderful. Very angular and kind of post-punk, I guess. I love them. This came out originally, what year? 79.
They only made one album.
They only made one album, and you should own it. And you may or may not like the aggressive kind of angularness of their kind of post-punk music, but they're really important in terms of being a big, impactful, all-women band. What do you have to say about the Slits? How would you...
You said it all. I'm not going to say anything about it.
Okay.
It's great. I mean, it was controversial at the time because of the cover. I mean, obviously, for a lot of reasons, but and that's not why. I had a copy, and for some reason I got rid of it, and then I found a copy at a record show a year ago in Seattle here. I brought it home, and it was one of those records. You know, you can salvage almost any record, but it's one of those records. On the first track, there was a bump where literally you put the needle on, and the needle would jump off. It wouldn't even play. Like, anyway, and I paid a decent amount for it. So when I was in, this came out reissue, I picked it up in Canada, but you can get it everywhere. It's still in print on Island Records. I think the original American was on Antilles, I believe, and I forgot about the British one. Anyway, great record, cool band. I'm going into French pop, and Amanda, I knew of a lot of French pop artists, the Yee Girls, and Amanda gave me a book several years ago, a gift, the Yee Girls, which there's Jane Birkin, Francois Hardy, the whole like offshoot of Serge Gainsbourg. Not that a man had to be involved in all this stuff, but I'm a huge fan of that.
This is a great book.
Charlotte Gainsbourg a little later too, but Francois Hardy, I think all of the reissues on Light in the Attic. French pop music with that beautiful, I just say, sexy ingenue voice they have. But
She has.
Yeah. But they're in the same genre, the way they're produced at the time,
Right.
all through the 60s and 70s. So this one was from 1962, early. So this stuff came over here in America. Obviously, I didn't get into it till well into the late 70s, hearing some of this kind of music for the first time. Obviously, a lot of French artists and actors, Brigitte Bardot also did some records like that too. So just beautiful records, these beautiful women who were very, very popular at the time in France. And I'm not going to even try to pronounce any of his names in French. This is more of a bit of a folky record of her with little country influences of pop record. But again, gorgeous record. I don't remember who produced these. Was Charles Blackwell and his orchestra. But, like everything else, his Light in the Attic record reissues are really well. Great stock, nice pressings. Usually great liner notes for the most part. Sometimes they have inserts or books. These don't, just gatefolds. But I recommend these. They've done, I've shown you the great series they've done of Lee Hazelwood. I have a couple of those. But Francois Hardy is my favorite of the Yee
Yees.
Girls.
And you can see some of the other kind of different artists that are featured in this book. I love that they do all of the cover little things, and the history of this genre is really, really interesting, and it is hypersexualized, but it is also kind of this foray for women to be in pop music at a time when, you know, they were kind of not really getting a lot of space in music. So creating this entire genre was a really cool opportunity for more female artists.
They were considered like models and pop stars too, and just very iconic, and movie stars in a way, like the Hollywood movie stars of French cinema and the New Wave a little bit during that. It parallels with that whole French New Wave in the late 50s, early 60s too. And a lot of the music was used in films from that period from France. So.
That actually reminds me that I was thinking about so many different bands that I would want to feature if I had my record collection here. And actually talking about the French pop stuff reminds me of the kind of electroclash resurgence that happened at the beginning of the 2000s. Particularly, there was a band called Whatever It Takes, shortened to WIT acronym. And they were amazing, and they kept a lot of those electroclash bands were kind of the new art school band. So kind of really capitalizing on this like performance art kind of concept that had been a big part of the first art school kind of music thing. What's the word I'm looking for that's escaping me at the moment? I don't know.
Obtuse?
No, I can't think of it. But Whatever It Takes did this kind of performative, hypersexualized take on, you know, essentially whatever it takes for them to get out there and get their music seen. It was really interesting, and they did like Cars cover, they did a number of different covers, and I haven't seen the album in a while, so I can't tell you all the tracks on there, but it's really good. It's really kind of hard to find. They didn't do a lot. It didn't last. Electroclash didn't last, but I believe I saw them like right around the same time that I saw Peaches for the first time, which is another kind of utilizing that kind of hypersexualized femme kind of domination kind of a situation to get a message across and to be seen. And obviously people remember the teaches of Peaches, or they don't.
That reminded me, I didn't pull, but another one in terms of that would, to me, line right in there from the 80s is Wendy O. Williams.
Oh yeah.
And what's the band?
Missing.
No.
The
You know, oh God,
it's right
the
on
Plasmatics. The
there
Plasmatics. Love the Plasmatics. Out there, Wendy O. Williams would come out just with tapes, like
Electric
half
tape,
naked,
yeah.
and with chainsaws and cut cars and things on stage.
Yes.
I went to see them at the Stone on Broadway in San Francisco with Jashit Brooks, and it was one of the most intense, hilarious. It was like theater. It was hysterical. I was amused. I loved it. You know, in a way, I hate to say this, the music almost was secondary. It was. I don't want to say shtick. That cheapens it.
It's performance art.
And a little bit of burlesque,
you know.
punk burlesque punk or something. But
Yeah.
anyway,
I don't know. Really, we could go on and on, I guess. But anyway, trying to think of what I want to do next. I guess we'll do this since it's sitting right here. A couple years ago, I guess, Mazzy introduced me to a Seattle band called Taco Cat, and they're freaking great.
you know what Taco Cat spells backwards? Think about it.
They're a sub pop band. They play on KEXP.
They're a Seattle band.
Yeah.
I've seen them 3 times here.
Really, really great. And this particular album, Lost Time, the first song is Dana Catherine Scully, and it's all about Scully from the X-Files and kind of how she takes charge, and just like a whole kind of almost a love note to Scully, which is really wonderful. I Hate the Weekend, which is a great song about how if you're a person who works in the service industry and you can't basically go out anywhere on the weekends because all of the people who work in offices all day every day are out there. And back many a year ago when I was a bartender, I felt very much the same way. I don't know, really great band, really wonderful, interesting, creative songwriting, and it's just really fun. The kind of music I hadn't heard written in some time.
Upbeat poppy, not in the same vein as the Go-Go's, but not unlike them. Not as commercial poppy. We'll try to be like
Definitely not. I wouldn't say
cheapo
super.
punky,
Yeah.
but not punky. They're,
Not particularly punky, but not particularly commercial.
no, they're not. But they're accessible. They're not
Yeah.
dark at all.
No, they're really fun to listen to across the board. Really, and just fun. Really fun band. Check them out. Taco Cat, big fan.
My next, I think, is an obvious choice, but to me is an important choice, and sort of the bridge from country rock, Graham Parsons and beyond. But that's Emmylou Harris, sort of discovered for the more or less by Graham Parsons. Sings on both of his solo albums, Grievous Angels and GP. I mentioned this before. My friend and boss, Vernon, got me this promo from the Warner Brothers rep when this album came out, and I hadn't realized this was the woman who sang on Grievous Angel, even though it says on the back with Emmylou Harris. I just never noticed it and made the connection when this came in. So this is a copy from 1975. For some reason I thought it was a little earlier. Beautiful record. We, all of us in the store, Vernon and a couple of friends, this woman Barbara Ree and I, and all 3 or 4 of us went to see her when this album came out at the boarding house, and I just fell in love with her music, and Emmylou specifically, but her style, and she had James Burton on guitar, who played with Elvis for years. But I'm going to show 2 albums on different extremes. She's more of a she covers rap. She's not a songwriter. She wasn't, at least, and she's not really seen as a songwriter. She's an interpreter, but she did on some of the stuff that Burritos had done. She covered songs from Graham Parsons and the Byrds and Shel Silverstein and Dolly Parton and the classics, Merle Haggard, but this one is where it changed. This is many years later. This is it's a 2016 reissue, because originally it only came out on compact disc. This is an expanded version with extra tracks. Wrecking Ball, and this is produced by Daniel Lanois, and it's very different. If you know Daniel Lanois' production, he's worked with U2 and even his solo stuff, and doing the soundtrack to Sling Blade, the film. Gorgeous and dirgy, songs by Neil Young, songs by Gillian Welch, and just a fantastic record. But 2 ends of the Emmylou Harris spectrum are these. And of course, those the great trio albums she did with Dolly Parton and Linda Ronstadt. So, top. I can't. I've showed her work before, but I just can't not talk about her, especially on National Women's Day, as a amazing recording artist.
I want to go back and correct myself real quick and let you know that this particular Taco Cat album was put out by Hardly Art. I don't want to miss an opportunity to say their name out in the world, because they put out great records. But then I'll move on to Jolie Holland.
Ooh, good choice.
Love Jolie Holland. I think I heard about her probably in 2003, and that's when this first album came out, the first one that I'm aware of, although I would imagine that she had done something else. Before then, kind of a harder one to find. It was put out by Anti, and her sound is so beautiful, and I will actually tell you what it says on the hype sticker on the front, because I think it actually does a pretty good job. She does for folk, fiddle, and country what Billie Holiday did for the blues, wrapping her unforgettable voice around each note and taking it somewhere you wouldn't have ever thought of. Though the minute you hear her, you realize it was the only right place that note could go. And I honestly can't describe her music any better than that. It comes out of nowhere, but once you hear it, you can't imagine it sounding any other way.
It's kind of it's definitely a folky, just
Very bluesy,
ethereal
very,
a little bit,
yeah.
you know, atmospheric.
Fantastic.
Obtuse.
Escondida was the next one, 2004. I would say, hands down, go search it out. It's just incredibly beautiful, unusual, but sounds right at home once you hear it. I don't know how else to say it. Even though it's
Just
not
like
very
that.
descriptive at all.
Just like that. You know, all these things. I'm not going to extend this thing and put like all these cuts on it. Write these down, search it. You can listen. Check it out for yourself. This is a good introduction. She's doing a better job, or not a better job, but she's doing the job of introducing you to the things that you don't see. I'm just retread. I'm an old retread, showing these great women over and over again. Okay, yet another artist that the Archivist turned me on to 15 years ago, 13 years ago, whenever it was, is Joanna Newsom. Not this record, but
Her first one.
her first one. This is called, I don't know how you pronounce it. I think it's Is, but it's Y-S. Wiz. No, that's Yiz. Anyway, it's Y-S. And if you can find this on vinyl still, I think it's still in print. It's just a gorgeous record. I bought this, hadn't heard a word of it, but I heard the one that Amanda turned me on to, and I fell in love with this record. This is a very interesting, unique collaboration that is orchestrated, or basically arranged by an artist who, Van Dyke Parks, artist who worked, heavily with the Beach Boys and Brian Wilson arranging things. Most recently, he worked on that, I'm blanking her name, the great Latin artist who was one of my favorite albums last year, and he orchestrated that version of her singing On the Border. But it's orchestrated. She plays the harp. She does have, it's an acquired taste for some, because she has this high pitch. She's kind of waif-like, and I hate to say waif. It always sounds like a negative thing, and it's not. She's got this high pitch voice that just, it breaks every once in a while, but breaks in the perfect way.
Right.
That she's doing it on purpose. It's not like a singer whose voice breaks accidentally and is off key. Amazing with the harp and the Van Dyke Parks' orchestration. Around this time too, I was a big, not this time, but, and I know she's not the same at all, and I didn't pull her, but as Fiona Apple, to me, is the opposite of her, like the lower registers of vocalization on her piano that has this angsty sound. And I wanted to pull her, but in the end, I'm gonna mention her name. But this record, especially the song, it's got a beautiful book in here with the lyrics. And
It's a beautiful package.
oh God,
It's lovely.
I mean, yeah, Bill Callahan's on here. I think they were dating at the time. That's the gossip thing. And I love Bill Callahan. But the song that, I think it's Cosmia. It might be Cosmia. No, I don't remember the names of the songs. But it's
Steve Albini.
He engineered it?
Recorded by Steve Albini. The harp and vocals were recorded by Steve Albini.
Okay, and then, all right, and then the orchestral arrangements are Van Dyke Parks. Parks, and he recorded those separately. But it's a seamless record, and it's a gorgeous, one of the most beautiful records I think that I know I own, and I keep going back to this record. And interesting enough, I had it on compact disc when it first came out, and I got the vinyl a little bit later. And I was playing this in my car, and my son, what year did this come out?
2006.
Okay, well, my son was like 15 or something then. He just fell in love with it. And I didn't think it was something that, a 15-year-old would be turned on to, but, he kind of like would mimic this high voice in kind of a joking way, but was totally in love with it. I saw her once at the Great American Music Hall, and if you ever get a chance to see her, she's amazing live. She's had 2 albums since, and they're all wonderful records. You think that you get tired of this kind of sound, but no, every time she does something a little different. So, Joanna Newsom.
Additionally, it was mixed by Jim O'Rourke and mastered at Abbey Road Studios.
Oh, it's a Beatle connection. Polly. Well, it's always a Beatle connection. You can do 6 degrees of separation. Van Dyke Park worked with the Beach Boys and Brian Wilson. Paul McCartney's favorite album is Pet Sounds. There you go, Beatles.
Oh yeah. And I think it's really interesting that at the beginning of the 2000s, there was this really fun resurgence. Not that there aren't always amazing women out there putting out amazing records, but I guess at the beginning of the 2000s, I consumed just an enormous number of really amazing female artists, and I'm always happy to share them. Around the same time, 2004, Touch and Go put out this very unusual...
Again, this was on the mix CD she gave me. I got suckered into all these not suckered in, but I got turned on these great, unusual artists. Loved it.
And this is Coco Rosie. These 2 sisters come together and create this just truly unusual collection of songs. And personally, one of the things I love about it is it sounds unlike anything else you've ever heard. But also they use a collection of toys as additional sounds and instrumentation in the music, and so you hear them. Sometimes they're singing, and sometimes they go into these kind of like almost rap-like kind of vocals.
There's hip hop
stylings,
and
there's
jazz influence
jazz
in there,
and they have like this incredible vocal range that goes from kind of lower registers all the way up into like really high. In particular, La Maison de Mon Rêve, which is the first album, is very almost ghost-like in quality. It's very airy and ethereal in a lot of ways. It's really, really, really cool. But
one of the sisters too studied opera, so she's got a very operatic voice, and really goes into singing that opera sounds within a beat box, or they'll have another drummer show up, or recordings in trip hop, hip hop, and any friggin' hop you want.
Yeah.
They mix it up, psych folk in a way, unusual. I mentioned this in the transgender Rachel's contest thing, because one of the sisters really dresses up as a man a lot, wears a mustache quite a bit. They're Americans, but they kind of lived in Paris for a while, so they were expats that really kind of got together. I'm not sure if I think they were separated at birth or something, where they were reunited as sisters and started this.
And the next album, Noah's Ark, kind of goes along similar lines, although it's got a different feel to it. Not quite as ghost-like in its qualities, not quite as airy. It has a different feel, but you can see that they're kind of, spending a lot of time together. And on the back here, it says that it's dedicated to their mother, which is particularly interesting. I want to show this too, because their relationship is really cool. And I know that they're still putting out records together. I saw a video online the other day where they had put out a new single, and it's very heavily roller skate rink, kind of from the 80s
Really?
vibe. It's really cool. It's got a lot of hip hop influence and
Like
stuff. in it.
Xanadu?
It's cool. It's really good. I'll have to share
Wow.
it with you. But on this record, Adventures of Ghost Horse and Stillborn was the third. I could be wrong, but I think I remember hearing that their mother had sang on this record as well. I
Sounds
could-
familiar, I don't remember.
which I thought that was really cool. And I have kind of lost track of them, and that's like, I don't know what it was, 2
They
weeks
kind of
ago or
fell
something.
out of the scene. That's why I was surprised. I saw them twice at the music hall. Again, based on Amanda's suggestions, all of these bands or artists I went to see because I just bought tickets, and I was surprised. I saw in the music hall both times. I think it was music hall both times in San Francisco. Both times the place was packed. I'm thinking, where do you hear this stuff? Who are these people? Why are they here?
They were put out
stop
on,
yelling, Bazzy.
you know, Touch and Go, one of my favorite labels. You can always rely on Touch and Go, not to steer you wrong. Big fan. But Coco Rosie, always a good time, and you know, still putting out interesting, cool, sometimes weird music, but that sounds great, and highly recommend it.
Okay, I'm not going to say much about this artist because I did do sort of a feature on her birthday, but I'd be remiss, and I wasn't going to include her because I just did something on her, but Yoko Ono. She gets a lot of flack. I'm a favorite. She's a favorite of mine as a performance artist, as a photographer, painter, more conceptual artist. She's an archivist in a way, in her own way. This was her. This came out the exact same time as John Lennon's Plastic Ono Band. It is not the same cover. They're actually reversed under the tree on each of the artist album. Obviously, John Lennon's has the picture of him as a child, and then these first two albums that I'm just in love with, that are avant-garde. I forgot which one. Ornette Coleman's on one of them. Klaus Vormann, Lennon, obviously. They're punk before punk, before the B-52s were basically doing Yoko Ono. Years later, into the 70s with Rock Lobster. In a way, Rock Lobster is what got John Lennon back in the studio. It says, come on, mama, they're doing you. Now people are realizing Yoko Ono. So I just wanted to show these few albums. That's all I'll say about Yoko. We love Yoko, or I love Yoko.
Totally.
You know.
Love Yoko.
So, no Yoko bashers here.
Yeah. I really wanted to dive into some of the kind of punk female singers, and some of my favorites, unfortunately, Maslov doesn't have, and
I'm deprived.
that gives me an opportunity to know what I should be saving up for his future birthday and Christmas presents.
Hanukkah!
Hanukkah presents, whatever he celebrates, bro. Don't even pretend.
Yeah, I celebrate Jesus' birthday every year.
I always send him a gift around the December times, and he's always totally happy to get it. So kind of my go-tos in that realm, probably, of course, my first thought was Bikini Kill, and then kind of getting into other projects by Kathleen Hanna, La Tigra, and things like that. But I also could not have thought about punk, like more punk and kind of the harder rockin' ladies without thinking about, you know, Joan Jett. This music in the background is Solex, from the album Pickup.
Got me on my knees. I've never heard her say, wish that I could stay. I'm like a beep, 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 beep,
She's from Amsterdam, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned that before, but anyway, ignore my rambling from before. Anyway, so Susie and the Banshees. This is actually just a collection of singles. Everyone has heard most of these, specifically Hong Kong Garden, you've definitely heard.
And the Beatle Connection? Oh, it's on that one. Never mind, it's on the other one. Okay, sorry.
This is 1981. Here is your Beatle Connection, because there's always one.
Great version of Dear Prudence. Cool version of Dear Prudence.
This is 1983. This is just an EP, or single really. And then this is 87. Is that correct? Yes, 87. Through the Looking Glass, which is kind of one of their the bigger.
Again, this is covers. The Passenger, the Iggy Pop song, Lost Little Girl, the Doors song. This Wheel's on Fire. Great version. I think Brian Auger. Well, Brian
Strange
Auger.
Fruit.
Yeah, not Brian Auger. But This Wheel's on Fire. Dylan or the band.
Yeah, Strange Fruit. Little Johnny Jewel. Great. Man, really wonderful songs. Sue right there. A goth beauty icon.
Killer.
Yeah, wonderful. But definitely so many amazing rockin' women. Of course, you have to talk about Joan Jett and the Runaways and many others that we've been kind of talking about all morning. Won't go into the... And this incredible woman. Ayo!
Game changer. Especially this album. This album came out, I'm giving the kudos to Clive Davis, who left Columbia and started Arista Records and signed Patti Smith. He doesn't seem like a Patti Smith kind of guy. And he heard something, or his A&R people, whoever it was, to sign Patti Smith, and really, the poet, the writer, really different. Not the glamour queen of usual women in pop, how men tried to put, certain look and marketing women in rock and roll and pop music. This was a game changer album when it came out. Horses, with a great photograph on the cover by her friend and confidant for years, Robert Mapplethorpe, and the great band. And of course, it has Lenny Kaye in here, who plays guitar with her to this day. And Lenny Kaye, some of you rock collectors might know, is the one who compiled the great garage collection Nuggets back in the 70s. So great band. I've seen her several times over the years, way back at this point. Again, recently, 3 years ago or 4 years ago in Seattle here. Still playing, still an amazing artist. And I'm just gonna show this one just because she broke. She was in the, I don't know if she's in the top 10, but this was a huge hit, 1978's Because the Night, written by Bruce Springsteen. Never thought someone like this would have a top of the charts hit, but I love, this is Easter. All her records are good, even their later stuff. She eventually switched to Columbia, which is ironic in some ways, but great stuff. A little controversial at times, but just a great poet, and she's written a lot of books lately, and you got to find her and read the great book she wrote.
Just Kids.
Just Kids.
So good.
It's about her and Robert Mapplethorpe
So good.
in New York, and just an amazing record and an amazing artist. Patti Smith, obvious choice, but an amazing artist.
Absolutely. So I don't know that my next choice is really all that obscure. In my mind, everyone knows who she is, but that could potentially not be the case, right? Cat Power. She is incredible. I think, when the Covers record came out, it surprised a lot of people because their covers are so striking. She really goes a long way with kind of making them her own in a lot of ways. Can't Go Get No Satisfaction, Troubled Waters, let's see, Sea of Love, I think is the one that everybody heard because it was in a movie or something, I think. And Paths of Victory, Dylan song, Dylan Connection.
Her real name is Chan Mitchell, and she's got that smoky, cigarette-sounding voice that just is sexy and wonderful. That's my favorite of her album, The Greatest. I just love it. It's kind of her most successful, maybe.
I think
it is. That came out around 2007 or 8. 2007. 2006. Love that record.
It's a really great. If you want maybe kind of like a first foray into Cat Power, if you're unfamiliar, The Greatest is the greatest option. And this one is really good.
I love that picture.
Oh,
I just love that picture.
yeah. Cat Power, You Are Free. Also an excellent one. I really like this record. And yeah, Matador. I think she was always on Matador, is that right? Yes. All of these releases came out on Matador. Just incredible kind of songstress and singer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next.
That's
next.
all I got. I don't know. She's great. Check her out.
I remember, growing up on the charts, there was a song that I really liked a lot called "Wishin' and Hopin'" by Dusty Springfield. It just seemed a little different at the time. I didn't know who she was, but Dusty Springfield has been a favorite of mine for years. And a record I did not buy at the time, and ironically, it wasn't one of her big hits, was Dusty in Memphis. This has become sort of her iconic record, even though it wasn't a hit at the time. In fact, it was a big deal for her to sign to Atlantic Records. They pushed it, and it kind of failed. But it's become one of those iconic records that everybody must have and everybody wants. And it's, British artist who recorded in Memphis, with Jerry Wexler and Tom Dowd and Arif Mardin, who was the head of the label, I believe, at the time. And it's just got an amazing artist, there was a song that actually got known, Windmills of Your Mind, on this, because it was Michel Legrand and Bergman, and it was used in, I believe, the Thomas Crown Affair, the film of that. So it did get to be a sort of a minor hit. But the song Breakfast in Bed, which that became like kind of this great pop reggae song years later, Son of a Preacher Man. There was some play on this, but it became such a cult, not even a cult, but it became such one of those records that everyone just fell in love with years later.
It's a sleeper hit.
Yeah.
In some ways.
Yeah.
But the sleep was longer than usual.
Yeah. The songs sold as singles, and the album, I don't think people got it, but this great British woman who loved women, and which was also controversial at the time, and had sort of this, secret identity, if you call it, because this was the 60s and early 70s. This is 1969, so this is like just 51 years old already. But Dusty Springfield, if you need one Dusty, there's a greatest hits, fine, but get this album. If you like kind of country soul, this is the one. White country soul, this is the one.
Beautiful. And I'm gonna close out with an artist that I really adore, and I find that every time I find out something new about her, I like her even more. And it is Alberta Hunter. Now this is, I have 3 or 4 of her albums in my collection, but this is kind of a comp or a reissue of Amtrak Blues. And it was produced originally by John Hammond. She does these really wonderful, swinging, bluesy, kind of, I can't really, they're kind of tawdry and
Obtuse.
saucy and really wonderful. She does Darktown Strutter's Ball, Nobody Knows You When You're Down and Out, kind of these like traditional standards. A Good Man Is Hard to Find. I'm Having a Good Time. My Handyman Ain't Handy No More. Old Fashioned Love, Sweet Georgia Brown. Kind of I've Got a Mind to Ramble, but the delivery, the way that she sings these songs, which you've heard before, is pretty unique, and I love her. Every one of her albums that I've heard is wonderful and funny and endearing to her spirit. Like, she is, you know, I can't remember when she passed away, but she was quite elderly. But she kept singing kind of all the way to the end. Which is a testament kind of to her spirit, which you can hear. You know, when you look at this photo of her, you think, I mean, how incredible, like, is she 150 years old in that photo, or what?
She was 476 in that photograph. That was taken.
I just think
It's an old photograph. too.
what an incredible achievement for her to just kind of live this really long, beautiful life. And you know, it's hard out there in the world for all women and all people, but Black women singing the blues, and she found a way to laugh all the way through it, and singing the blues was her jam, and she's great at it.
I want to mention, even though I'm not going to show her, but Bessie Smith in that breath. I mean, Bessie
yeah.
Smith's an important artist. I didn't pull Bessie Smith. And also, I'm a fan. I like gospel, and one of my favorites is Mahalia Jackson.
Absolutely.
But I'm not. But that's that's not for everybody, because it is very religious and just. But she belts it out.
She's got an incredible voice.
I have like 3 or 4 of her records, and anyway. But I'm going to close out with an artist that I got turned on to in the mid 90s, and I'm going to show 2 of her records. But that's Lucinda Williams. I feel this is her best record. It's an amazing record. Cartwheels on a Gravel Road. I mean, I've seen her live. I saw her live at her Fillmore run, and there's a great live Fillmore record. I have a compact disc that is just brilliant. This is the record, though, to get if you can find it. It's hard to get on vinyl right now. It keeps going in and out of print, and there's some debate who owns the rights to it. You can get it on compact disc. Either way, get this record. It's great. She's got a swampy voice sound. She sounds like, especially later, her voice almost doesn't get worse, but she sounds like she sings with marbles in her mouth. And to me, gravelly. It's like Gravel Road. There you go. And it's just kind of sloppy, drunk-like. I'm not saying she's drunk, but she's got that sound. She always reminds me of sort of a female Keith Richard. Just the way she's rocking on the road, weathered on the road, but great. She makes great rock and roll, swampy country music. And really good, great band. I don't even know if she's had the same band in a long time, but this is a great the Springsteen connection on this. Some of the recording was recorded by Roy Bittan, who used to be in the E Street Band with Bruce Springsteen. And lastly, Blessed. Love this record. There were various covers on this record, so you could pick out different covers of who the cover person was. And there's a song on here that I just love. It starts out with Buttercup, but my Buttercup. And she kind of has that swampy sound like that. I know everyone hates when Mansley tries to do the southern drawl, Texas drawl voice, but I'm going to do it anyway because we're ending thing here, but anyway, Lucinda Williams, I have like 6, 7, 8 of her records, and I love them all in different ways, and just great music to put on and blast. It's like putting on loud rock and roll, but it's not loud rock and roll. I don't want to say Allman Brothers-esque, it's not even that. Anything to say about her? Or?
No, you did a good job.
So, International Women's Day, the whole month. I mean, it should be friggin' every day. It should be like it
Half
shouldn't,
the population, folks.
it shouldn't even be a day, right?
It should be every day of the year.
Yeah. So we like that. Again, not definitive, but this is the record we were in the mood.
Barely scratched the surface,
Yeah.
but maybe you picked up some new faves.
You know,
or
if you
something.
find one artist each time in these videos that I do, that we do, that you see on the vinyl community anywhere, that's the brilliance and the wonder. We just hit 1 hour, so you know you might be sleeping halfway through this as you're dozing, but watch it in parts and pieces. Of course, I'm telling you this at the friggin' end of the video, so if you got this far, forget it. I mean, anyway, I thank you.
I thank you.
And a toast to all the women in the world and great artists in the world. So, cheers.
Cheers.
Mazzy loves you. Take care.